your hard work in the industry. All of our honorees were nominated by their peers for their hard work that they do in their everyday roles. I have Lily Wold. She's the Senior Manager of IT Internal Audit from Health Equity. Lily, are you here? Lily, come on up. I like how the first ones are women. I mean, we're seeing more and more. So how about a round of applause for all the women in cyber here today? And we have the WeCIS chapter here. I applaud all of you, but I've been doing this for 20-something years, and there was a time you used to see 2 women in the audience, so we've come a long way. So, Raymond Fernandez, he's a senior network engineer from Home Street Bank. All right, Raymond, congratulations. Taylor Jolin, IT Operations Manager from Nisqually Red Wine Casino. Taylor, are you here? Come on up, Taylor. Congratulations. We're hoping you'd bring some wine with you, but...
Oh, yeah, right?
Okay, we have Tho Doa, PMO Manager at Seattle Public Schools. No. Okay, Rohan Kinghiker from Uber, Cybersecurity Assurance Lead. My favorite people, I use almost every day, Uber. Okay, Randall Jarrell, vCISO from HiSop Travel. Randall, congratulations, Randall. Nicholas Peterson, Deputy Chief Information Security Officer from the City of Tacoma. Congratulations. Marshall Freiberger, Director of IT from Washington State University. Congratulations. Kristen Dieker, CISO from Santa Clara University. Kristen, are you here? She was here. Joshua Copeland, Director of IT from Run Studios. Joshua, are you still here? Ivo Ivan. Thank you. Director of IT from Valley Cities Counseling. Who is not here. But thanks for that correction. Elizabeth So, Director of IT, Girl Scouts of the Western Washington. Yay. Awesome. Congratulations. William, I don't think he came back, is our keynote here. He was supposed to be back, but... Marivell Gamlin is a cybersecurity BISO from CBRE. And one of our fine panelists today. I have Timothy Youngblood, who's a former CISO from T-Mobile, from PNW CyberSecurity. Thank you, and thank you for having CyberSecurity participate and support our event. And I just called our keynote. I'm not certain I have 2 for him. And I have that one as a repeat. You're going to just call that person too? Bryce Matsuoka, who is he is a vCISO from Above Cloud. Thank you for sitting on the panel today. Andy Stewart is the Region Cybersecurity Officer from CommonSpirit Health. Thank you. And last but not least, you all should know her. Last year she was our keynote speaker, and she's going to moderate our panel. Eva Benn is Offensive Security Senior PM Manager from Microsoft. The queen of the day here. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Eva, and let's welcome our panelists, and they can all they'll reintroduce themselves. So let's welcome our panelists.
Hello? Okay, perfect. Wow, I even get in the word.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here today and for joining us for this conversation. We really want to keep it very organic. We've had zero prep. We just want to make sure that this conversation is as engaging for us as it is for you. So we'll go through and we'll do some introductions. We'll kind of touch on some key basic topics such as top of mind, emerging security threats, and then we'd love to engage you in this conversation. So I have Lorenzo. I've been waiting to say this name. Lorenzo will be running with the mic, and he will be giving the opportunity for all of you to kind of ask questions. So you are very much a part of this panel as we are. So by kind of starting, we're just going to quickly introduce ourselves. I'm going to go very quickly. Kim already mentioned I work at Microsoft, and I am on the offensive security team that does penetration testing, application security assessments, red teaming that covers our Azure Edge platform as well as the Windows and devices. So we have quite big scope. My background is in cybersecurity. Over the past 10 years, I have experience in Big Four consulting in cybersecurity and definitely have very diverse cybersecurity experience. But offensive security is where my heart is. So that's about me. Now I would love to invite our wonderful and diverse panelists to introduce themselves. And in addition to introducing yourselves, tell us just a little bit more about your background, what you do, and also what's top of mind for you.
Thank you, Ava. So I will start off. My name is Bryce Matsuoka. I actually volunteer with ISSA, so come join us. We have meetings the third Thursday of every month in Mercer Island. My background is, I was actually with IBM for 28 years. I'm older than I look. And so I've been a virtual CISO for my own company for a number of years. I've had a number of small and medium customers. And specifically, what I hope to share with you is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. It came up from our keynote speaker over lunchtime, and it was talking about how do we grow the next generation of CISOs from the current levels that you are. So either you're deputy CISO or director of security, or even a security manager, right? Because you may be running all of security for your entire organization. That's something that's specifically a passion of mine right now, helping people get to that next level, looking at how do you talk to the board, how do you talk to the C-level execs, how do you do more than just the nitty-gritty type stuff that got you in that position that you're in today. So that's one thing that I'm very, very passionate about.
Love it. And that's not something that we hear about every day, so would love to hear more about that. Andy.
That's awesome, Bryce. So Bryce and I both serve on the board of the local ISSA Puget Sound chapter. So I am going to put another plug in. Please come join us if you have an opportunity every third Thursday of the month. I'm Andy Stewart. I'm the Region Cybersecurity Officer for CommonSpirit Health. Many of you probably don't know what CommonSpirit Health is, but I bet many of you know Virginia Mason Franciscan Health. And CommonSpirit Health is the parent company. So Virginia Mason Franciscan Health represents the Washington market within CommonSpirit Health, and I have responsibility for the Washington and Oregon markets. So that gives you an idea of the scope of my responsibility. For those of you who know what a BISO is, my role is probably most closely aligned with that of a BISO. Mostly my responsibility is to bring the national strategy into the region, make sure that everything aligns with what we're trying to do nationally. And at the same time, I represent our region back to national. So there's something going on in any of the markets that I'm responsible for that's having an impact on the business. I advocate for our region and for our markets. Top of mind, I'm going to keep it a secret for now because I think I share the same one as somebody else, and I didn't want to steal anybody's thunder. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic.
BISO, I know that well. Hello, everyone. My name is Marivell Alicea-Gamlin, and I go by Mag. It's a lot easier to remember and probably a lot easier to pronounce. I am in the global space, and I am a BISO analyst for CBRE in the digital and technology space, where I demonstrate cybersecurity compliance. I'm relationship building every day. I am being assessed as a third party and put in the hot seat day after day. And I just wanted to thank Kim and Eva and everyone here for supporting Kim's event. And I'm looking forward to our discussion. So let's get this party started.
There you go, spicy. So I'm Tim Youngblood, and I'm glad to see everybody has a drink in their hand, so you're not responsible for what comes out of your mouth right now. So let me start off. Since we're plugging things, I want to plug CyberSecurity, and I'm here representing CyberSecurity, and the mission of CyberSecurity is to represent women, underrepresented minorities, and veterans, get them into cybersecurity. So the organization's been around about 6 or 7 years. It's been growing chapters all over the country. They provide mentorship, scholarship, training, and actually started a chapter here. Founding members, Malcolm Waters with Ovation Technology CEO is here. And myself and Johnson from Microsoft started it last year. And the leadership team there is Malcolm and Brent Lundstrom. So if you're interested in cybersecurity, you have someone who wants to get into cybersecurity, please go to cybersecurity, cybersity.org. And as far as my background, so I've been in the industry about 30 years. I've been the Chief Security Officer for Dell, Kimberly-Clark Corporation, McDonald's, and also T-Mobile. And now I spend my time actually helping startup companies, and mainly in the cybersecurity space. And I angel invest, so I invest in companies. I talk to probably about 6 or 7 startup CEOs a week, get involved in about 10 or 15 deal flows. So the thing that's top of mind to me is what the next wave of technology is in cybersecurity. And, as a CISO, I was one of those that had, 150 products in my portfolio, and about half of it gave me value, right? So I want to make sure the next generation of technology starts off with value day one.
Wow. So now that we heard so many plugs for local organizations, I feel accountable to do plugs for the organizations that I contribute to. So I am very lucky to have been on the board of the Osaka Puget Sound chapter for the past 7 years. It's an incredibly amazing community. We have monthly meetings. Please follow us on LinkedIn. I am also on the leadership board of the OWASP Seattle chapter. Many of you, probably most of you, are not familiar with OWASP Seattle because it is a fairly new chapter. Please follow us on LinkedIn. And finally, huge shout out to vCISO, which is also here. I am so grateful to be part of this amazing group of women who are making a difference in our community. So together, along with the ESA and CyberSecurity and other organizations that are contributing our time really at a volunteer basis, we are very fortunate to have such an engaging community locally. So please stay connected. It is so important for us to continue to learn from each other. So going back to the conversation, we heard about your top of mind, and cybersecurity is a natural thing for the threat landscape to continue to evolve. And we are really at, I would say, groundbreaking fundamental shift in how we do things with AI in the picture. I am not going to start a conversation toward AI because I think we've had enough AI conversations. But what I would love to talk about is, with the evolving threat landscape, what should we invest in as cybersecurity professionals when it comes to skill set? What should we do today to continue to stay relevant and to excel in the future? I'd love to hear from each one of you on this.
I'll start off. As far as investment goes, when you think about the threats we have today, the threats we're going to have tomorrow, I think heavy investments in Threat intelligence is needed. I think we need to have a lot more focus in this area and giving us the ability to risk forecast and try to understand what's really the next thing that's going to hit us so that we're better prepared for that. I mean, we've got a lot of great frameworks that are out there. MITRE attack framework is great. It helps identify, threat actors that typically, come after, our companies, although they focus in on nation state. I think that, we can leverage tools like that, but we have to go out and get better intelligence and have professionals that are in the industry to help us gather that, right? So I think, we do a great job on the operational side. All the Defender stuff is great, but we need to get back into focusing on, being future ready.
And I'm going to take a different approach on that. We tend to forget about the people, right? The people are the weakest link. So how are we relaying the policies and standards to the end users, right? No one wants to read a long document, but those are very important to provide guidance within the organization. I feel that access controls are taken lightly sometimes, especially with startup organizations, right? Because you don't have the staffing, right? And also you may not have the skill set. But those are things that we all need to invest, and we all need to invest in ourselves. So, for example, Ava mentioned WeSees. I'm a member of ISE Squared. I want to become a member of ISSA for sure, because they contribute so much, and I learned so much from them. And so, sign up for newsletters, join events like these, because this is where you're going to find the professionals that are trying to solve the problems that we're all trying to solve within our industries, within our organizations, within our homes. And also, in order to keep everyone fresh and relevant, also take this back to your personal lives, right? I love to advocate for cybersecurity, and I'm always talking about MFA and all these other technologies, and I try to simplify it as best as possible so that my daughter can understand, my son can understand, and my grandmother, although she's no longer around here, but it's important to share your knowledge. So thank you.
All right, so again, just a different perspective, right, on where you might want to focus your skills. We've heard time and time again that cybersecurity is not a technology problem, it's a business problem. We've heard probably many times that we need to learn how to speak the language of business with our executives and our board members, and the reason why we keep hearing it is because that's where we need to develop as an industry, is in our ability to understand the business, the impacts on the business that cyber threats have, and to be able to articulate that in a way that they understand, which is usually risk and dollars, right? And understanding the other risk dimensions that your organization operates in, so that you can effectively work with your other counterparts in different departments to figure out where's your greatest risk, right? And you might be able to address a risk in the cyber in cybersecurity, but it might create other problems, which are issues, not just risk, or it might increase risk in another area of the business. So having some awareness of those things and the ability to talk about those things, not only fosters trust, which is also important. If you're going to have a program, it's good to be able to defend it, because you know how you're building that to protect the organization, and your stakeholders do as well. But that's what's going to, now that we evolve into educating and speaking with our boards, and now even maybe sitting on boards as cybersecurity professionals, this is where we, in my opinion, need to continue to grow, is in that business understanding and that risk understanding.
Yeah, again, my twist on this is just to remember things like security software is not a panacea. Now, what do I mean by that? You can't just implement a piece of software and immediately start, we're going to reap the benefits from that. And people start blaming the software and the technology, whether it's software or hardware, tools, whatever. And to build on what Maddie said, it's people, process, and technology. We've heard that till we're blue in the face, right, if you've been around a while. And it's true, because the business has to own the process. And they don't want to do that. They just want to throw it over the wall, the security, and have you run it all. right? Because they just want hands off. But they've got to be part of that. The SEC rules dictate that. So they have to look at this from a standpoint of how are you managing the business, to Andy's point, and how are we really going to look at this from a people, process, and technology? Who owns the process? How are we going to make that process work and make it utilize that particular piece of software or hardware or whatever security solution you're putting in place so that it's effective for the company? Because if you don't have all of that, you're not going to be successful in running. And you guys know this. I mean, I'm not saying anything that's not true, right? So don't just leverage the technology, leverage the people. Who owns the process? How are you going to manage that process? And once you document the process, it probably has to be changed again anyway. So those are the kinds of things you just have to look at, right, and figure out how we're going to make this happen so those technology solutions can be successful.
Wow, wonderful. I definitely appreciated the different perspectives here. There are a couple of things I'd love to add on some of what was mentioned already. So team talked about the MITRE framework. I want to also let you know, for those of you that haven't heard, MITRE actually has a new LLM-specific framework called Atlas. This is so just look it up. It actually focuses, it's modeled after the original MITRE attack framework. It just specifically focuses on tactics, techniques, and procedures in AI and ML systems. So it is a really good way, it's actively maintained, it is a really good way for you to kind of stay ahead of the threat landscape in that space, which is very important. And then tagging on the people perspective, which I also think is extremely important, just kind of emphasizing being plugged in the community. And I mentioned earlier, we do have a very large security community that is very active, right, with all of these nonprofits. Stay plugged in. I actually am working with all of the local nonprofits in security to start organizing some cybersecurity mixers. The first one is on April 11th, so mark your calendars. Yet another plug. But this is going to be really just kind of a collaborative effort from all of our security nonprofits. We really want more opportunities to connect with each other and learn from each other, because at events like this is where we really can multiply our superpowers. So. And then one more thing I wanted to mention, when we talk about skills, right? When we talk about the emerging threat landscape and what skills we need to work on, a lot of, and this is especially for people early in career, but not exclusively relevant to them, a lot of people get very dazzled by the advancements in technology. Like we have the innovation, the promising kind of advancements with AI. And we often lose sight of the good old-fashioned security basics. I think that no matter how effective our, detection is, if we don't have baseline prevention controls in place, it's really meaningless. It's like building a mesmerizing, very fancy palace and hiring the best security guards and getting the best state-of-the-art surveillance system while leaving the front doors unlocked. So I think that security professionals should definitely continue to invest in the fundamentals and baseline understanding of security concepts. So with that, I'd love to engage all of you in this conversation, and Lorenzo will be available for all of you that love to engage. Does anybody have any question? Making Lorenzo walk. He's getting his workout.
Right, I'm Linus Liu. I'm with Washington State University. I'm coming from a different angle. I want to ask panelists about what, as an educator, what we should train our students. What are the skill sets and what are the things that they should be versed before they graduate? Thank you.
Is this directed to anyone specifically or just around? Okay.
So I guess I'll start. So my perspective is that education is most effective when it comes with a use case that's based out of a specific situation with a client. So if you can build use cases that you actually go out and find out what issues customers or companies are having from a cybersecurity standpoint and build that into the class as examples or ways that you can illustrate perspective point, whether maybe you're creating a risk assessment perhaps and using a pen test to do that, and how are the pen test results going to affect the results of that risk assessment. I think those are some of the things that could be very useful to people coming out with skills in courses.
So I'm going to ask for a little bit of context for the question. So do you have a program currently where you're
Yeah, we have
teaching?
currently a cybersecurity program. This is a response from the states. The business requests that state universities to address the shortage of engineers.
Got
in
it.
cybersecurity.
And
then
not to
we-
answer a question with a question, have you guys gone through like a session where you've brought people in to kind of look at the curriculum?
We would
and
like
update?
to have people involved more with our programs. I mean,
Yeah.
it was funded first, and then we're trying to find people to get involved and
Got
direct
it.
us in some ways. So we as a universities, now we faculties may not have all the expertise in terms of practical experiences.
Right.
But then we come to the university trying to train in basic skills about computer science, solving problems, and then we like to see whether or not, as a business or industry, whether or not there will be extra things that you want us to address so that our students that when they graduate will be ready.
For sure, yeah, no, I appreciate that context. That's helpful, right? And so, one, I think that would be the right thing to do is to bring folks in that can provide you some insight into what cybersecurity looks like today in our organizations and what those hiring managers are looking for, so that you can kind of build your program. I would say without knowing what you teach today and what gaps may be there or not. Some of the things that we talked about today is that communication aspect and being able to communicate effectively about cyber risk in the organization, and even maybe risk assessment, right? Make sure that you're baking those skills into your program. I don't know if your program is currently like technology heavy, or if it's more management focused, but even if it's technology heavy, those communication skills are going to be super important, right? And being able to put into context for the organizations that these folks work in, understanding the context of the work that they're doing, right? In the bigger picture, I think those are going to be great skills to be able to pass on to your students.
And to add on to what Andy has shared, I believe that it's important to really understand what the focus is, right? Because a lot of people hear the word cybersecurity and they have no idea, they have no concept of what that is. They think it's really technical, or, and I'm here to tell you it's not all technical, but it could be, but you also have to learn how to build relationships because, for example, I'm client facing, so what I say and what I do can impact our organization, right? Because someone may not like or appreciate what I have to offer, or I might take wrong, incorrect information, inaccurate information, and there goes the deal. But for students, what I am suggesting to my mentees right now is sign up for the cloud. Microsoft offers so many free programs that they can really get up to speed with a lot of the education out there, right? So focus on AI also. And the thing is, right, this is all new technology. Technology is evolving every single day. So today, what's relevant is not going to be relevant tomorrow. So you could be that change maker. So you just need to understand the impact that the individual wants to make. Do they want to focus on governance, risk, and compliance? Do they want to focus on pen testing? Do they want to become a CISO? There are so many different avenues within our industry that you cannot fail.
Yeah, this is, I think, an important topic too. And I think the earlier you can get people involved, the better. Even going down to the high school level. I was at T-Mobile, we started an Explore program that went down and identified high school students to come in and work with us during the summer. And then as they got, through the program, give them opportunities at scholarships and then internships. Hands-on experience is really, really key. And I think that needs to be part of every program's, process. And as part of that too is the fact that development skills, secure code development skills in particular, are really key. I can't tell you how much bad code continues to be developed. And there's not a lot of universities that focus on this, which is surprising to me. And I think, there's got to be a focus on what secure code development is, what those practices are. Whether you're going to go into, an engineering, discipline within security, you're going to have some knowledge around coding, right? And so that's got to be a part of the curriculum. And then I think some of the other skills are just kind of understanding, the regulatory and compliance space is also really, really important too. Just understanding what some of those regulatory issues are that businesses have to deal with. Things like CMMC, understanding PCI, basic controls will help you be a better cybersecurity practitioner.
I'd like to add to you, sir, that you should consider partnering with organizations such as, I'm going to give a plug to Alpha, that's a Latino professional organization. And so lots of times what we do is we partner with different organizations and we bring the students over to our side, and we'll conduct like a professional type of environment, and we teach them how to present to leadership, and we provide a use case, and then you see our future professionals, you see their development, and you also see what they have to contribute, and they just learn so much along the way. So I highly recommend to partner with organizations such as those.
Just one maybe recommendation that might not, you could figure out maybe how to fit it into the curriculum perhaps, but just being aware of the communities, the cybersecurity communities that you have around you, right? And getting students plugged into those and encouraging them to participate, and also faculty. I know sometimes there's an issue where faculty, they've been teaching for a long time, but they haven't been out in the field or practicing necessarily. Having the faculty also engage in some of these communities where you're learning, you're building networks. The old, it's not always just what you know, but who you know. If the state's asking you to be able to help these students be prepared to enter the workforce, some of it is let's build those relationships and networks early, right? So that when they come out of school, they already know some people that if either can give them a job or be a reference for them or be a mentor for them. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of adding to Andy's point. So I live on Mercer Island, and we have our ISSA meetings there the third Thursday of the month. And my son is a junior in high school last year, and his guidance counselor said, "Hey, I know a young man who's interested in cybersecurity. Would you like me to introduce you?" I said, "Sure." So she introduced me, and then I found out he was interested in coming to ISSA. They came, and like 10 people from this cybersecurity club started coming from a high school standpoint. So certainly those affiliations could serve you well if you chose to do that from a university standpoint. But then in addition, I'd suggest that a lot of what we do is based on the questions we ask. And you can set an impression based on the questions you ask. So it's a very, I don't want to call it simple, but it's a very concise way of saying, how can we establish ourselves as a cybersecurity consultant? What kind of questions would we ask members in the business if we're trying to do a risk assessment, as an example? So you could come up with a way of saying, okay, in a very strategic standpoint, we may have a class focused on developing a risk assessment. What does that look like? What does that entail? How would that play out? And then if the students go through that and they come out, oh, I know how to do a risk assessment, and oh, here are the interview guides that I would give to speaking to a CFO or speaking to a COO or speaking to a CIO. That would then give them a perspective of what it might take, not only to get a job in cybersecurity, but potentially with a big 5 accounting firm, right, who have focus areas in all of this. And those are basic consulting skills that might dovetail very well for you in your program. So there's lots of different ways to skin the cat. I know we just kind of, throwing a fire hose at you, but I hope some of this has been helpful so that you can think of different ways you can pursue this.
Wonderful. Yeah, these are some great perspectives. I'd love to add some more specific perspective here. I am very, very excited, first of all, that there is a funded program. This is an extremely needed skill. I was just in Spain last year, and I contributed to some cybersecurity efforts sponsored by the government, and I was just talking to people, and I said, I wish we had something like this here, and now we do. So a couple of things that are going to be a little bit more kind of like direct guidance would be, for a cybersecurity program to be effective, we need to have a well-rounded fundamentals first. I don't care which is your domain. You need to have a baseline understanding of cryptography. You need to have a baseline understanding of risk management. You need to have a baseline understanding of what's application security. How is it different than operational security? You need to have a baseline understanding of BCDR, right? You don't have to be an expert in all of these, but it does give you a solid foundation that you can later build on and specialize. And all of the topics that we talked about today are very valuable skills, and all of the panelists had different perspectives. But for any of these to be successful, we need to have maybe, I don't know, right, obviously you're going to have SMEs contribute to how you build a program, but I think a baseline fundamentals are very, very important, and then have some sort of specializations after that that can build on that fundamentals. And then the other thing I'm going to mention is, with AI in the picture, I hate talking about AI, but it is a thing, so I have to mention it. With AI in the picture, AI is a force multiplier. It actually does make our job easier in many ways. So I think that part of such a program needs to include, for cybersecurity to learn how to effectively leverage AI to, to do their job as cybersecurity professionals. And that means, communicating with AIs in its kind of in a way its own language, and being able to effectively leverage that for things that we would need in our different cybersecurity area. That would be obviously, I'm stating the obvious here, but I think fundamentals and ability to effectively leverage AI should be a part of this program. And just recapping, involvement with our nonprofit organizations as a part of this would be a key, because we are all very passionate about giving back to the community and would love to help and see these programs succeed. So thanks for doing that. Any other questions? Lorenzo? I just love saying this name. Oh, sure, please. Marivell has something to add.
So I use generative AI every single day. And I know William said that, our keynote speaker, I do. It just simplifies my job so much. It's just sometimes I have a difficult time coming up with titles, like subjects, emails to capture attention, right? So I leverage AI for this. And something that would take me 20 minutes, I'm done in 2 seconds. And so I can focus on something else that's more important. I can focus on the customer. I can on the clients. I can focus our internal requesters, right? I can focus on the technology. I can sit in meetings with CISOs and the likes and really learn, take the time to learn additional skills that will make me a trusted source and also make me better every day. So don't be afraid of that word, artificial intelligence, AI. You need to embrace it, and you need to see how it can benefit you. But of course, you do need to check yourself, right? Because you enter information, you play around with it, and then you just tailor it more. It's more specifically, more specific. You enter more specific comments, and then it becomes you. So I'm not saying, don't cheat with it. Don't just take the first draft. No, you make it you. Bring your personality into the responses.
So there is actually, I'm happy to anybody who's interested. There is a whole discipline called prompt engineering that helps you to learn how to effectively communicate with AI. That's why I mentioned it's its own language. Doesn't it drive you crazy when people just copy and paste ChatGPT things in LinkedIn? I mean, it's so obvious. I don't know, like, it's just like with the emojis and the flashy, lengthy, verbose post. Don't do that, please. It's obvious. Any other questions? Oh, here, Lorenzo.
Thank you so much to all the panelists. I was wondering, as this world gets even more globally connected and a ton of companies rely on various technology, how supply chain attacks and other global threats or threats coming from interconnectedness, what you see the future is like there and how companies can best respond to that.
I'm going to pass that to Marivell specifically.
I love this topic. So, you know, we're always doing business with a vendor or supplier, right? We need to assess the risk, and we need to put them through the test. And, you know, like I said earlier, I am always put in that hot seat. People don't just want to know, you know, why you're doing things. They want to know exactly how we're doing things. But, you know, we can't give away the secret sauce. So we have to find a way to articulate that information and provide them with enough information, right, to have you all trust us that we're doing what we say that we're doing to protect the data. So it's all about the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data. So we're all in this together, so we need to know the CIA. So, and then I'll pass it on to you.
Yeah, just, I mean, in this arena, I mean, supply chain attacks is pretty much the norm now, right? And I think, you know, your best defense in this day and age is to really focus in on your software bill of materials, your SBOMs. And you should have that as part of your programs. You should have a great inventory of, you know, the components of your products and, you know, what versions they're using. I mean, you think back when we had Log4j, if we'd had that inventory, how much easier it would have been for us to identify, you know, where we had the vulnerabilities. And I think you have to apply a VEX to that, a vulnerability and exploitability exchange. And, you know, those are evolving right now. And if you've got a good SBOM, you've got a good VEX, then you've got a really good sort of source of protection for, you know, those supply chain partners that have so much access to your environment.
Yeah, this was a big, I mean, and most of us have heard of MOVEit and what happened with MOVEit and the big impact that had, you know, on a lot of organizations in the country. Someone cited a statistic a little bit ago where like 17% of organizations in the U.S. were affected by the MOVEit breach, right? Right now, you've got something going on similar in healthcare. You may have heard either whether they're calling it United or Optum or Change Healthcare, right? Change Healthcare had a huge breach that's having a huge impact across the healthcare organization. And so, again, this is supply chain. And we think sometimes if we're going to engage like a SaaS vendor, right, we need to have some kind of, you know, shared responsibility model. And we're going to assess a SaaS vendor before we engage them and all that stuff. We don't have any visibility or control over their environment, so we got to kind of understand what are they doing and hope for the best, right? But in this case, these are platforms that are they're clearinghouses, right, or they're health information exchanges and things like that are the glue that connect, you know, one type of organization to another, like a hospital to an insurance payer, right? Now this is down. So hospitals providing services to patients, but they can't get paid because they can't send their claims to the claims processing clearinghouse right now because it's down. So this supply chain thing, it's huge. It's only gonna get probably, you know, it could potentially get worse, right? I think part of it is just to understand who do you rely on to conduct business outside of your business, right? How prevalent are they? And it's the risk question. If something were to happen, what would the impact be, right? Do you know what the likelihood is? That's the harder part, right? But just kind of understanding what you're going to do when that does happen, right? We talk about resilience and being able to operate when things are down. Same thing with your third parties. When you rely on them to provide something critical to you and all of a sudden they're down because they suffered a breach, right? You need to have a plan for that, right? One, what are all my connections and interfaces with that third party? Where do I need to shut them down, right? They may be shutting them down already because they're like, okay, we don't want to impact our customers. But you also don't want those coming back up prematurely, right? You want to be able to control when you re-engage. So having a plan around that, and also how do we operate in the meantime? What are our workarounds? Like, I can't use this service that I relied on every day to run business, and it's going to impact my revenue. I need to figure out what can I do if that happens, right? What's my backup plan? So anyway, that's one of the current issues that's happening again across the healthcare space right now. And when, you know, it was a big deal when SolarWinds happened. It was a big deal when MOVE It happened. So we just need to know that it's going to happen and start building our resilience plans to account for that.
Yeah, I think third-party vulnerability has been and will continue to be an issue moving forward. I guess the 2 cents that I'd add to this is basically know your third-party vulnerability, but also, like Andy said, know the different endpoints. And there are tools that can go out and show this to you. So you can get understanding of, okay, what are all my external connections to this particular piece of software? Or are we dependent on this? And how do we gain control of the endpoints, at least if we can't control the software itself? So there are different things you can do. You know, looking at a detailed certificate strategy, those kinds of things can be helpful in doing this when you're trying to gain control over something you can't actually access and manage yourself, because it's basically a black box inside your infrastructure, which is a heavy duty, right? So it's not going to go away. Third-party vulnerability is not going to go away. There are ways that you can try to ask them to become more secure, or of ways that they can share with you, ways that they can do that. And I think there'll be additional insight in being able to do this because, like Andrew was saying, with MOVE It, that was manufacturing, right? And in December, I think that happened, right? And so many manufacturing firms were hit by this. It was just crazy. So it's going to continue to happen. It's not going to be a shortage of not happening. And then how do you control and make plans and develop strategies around this to better protect yourself?
Wow, great questions. There's just a couple of things I wanted to add here. I'm sure everybody's familiar with SBOM. SBOM is the name of the game. It is an emphasis in
We're taking the mic back.
What?
So we're taking the light back. I just wanted to say you really need to, so
Awkward.
all of us were employed somewhere, and if we're not, we plan on being employed, or we were employed once in a lifetime, right? It is important to really understand the industry that you're in. So for example, CBRE, we are a commercial real estate and investment firm. A lot of people don't know that, right? They're like, oh, what are you doing cyber in there, right? So you need to understand what is stopping the business, right? So it can be anything, right? So you mentioned health. And so as long as you understand what are those risks, then you can go and protect that, right? But if you don't know what those risks are, you don't know what your critical applications are, the ones, so for example, we all want to get paid, so ADP cannot go down. So, and I'm just trying to make it relatable, right? Because if we understand it, if we need to engage our audience and let them understand how this impacts them, how it impacts us all, because we all have different roles within our organizations. And for moms and dads out there, we're cybersecurity too, right? Because we are trying to protect our children. And I always try to bring it back to the basics, because people forget about addressing the basics. The foundational knowledge is of utmost importance.
I know Marivell is very passionate about this topic, so thank you for chiming in. Additional
I wanted
thoughts.
to summarize though what you just said, right?
I guess Andy is as well. Can't stop these guys, man.
You can't stop us. No. And she talked about being aware so that you can do something about it, because if you're not aware, that you can't. So just a phrase that I heard years ago, listening to audiobooks, someone said, it's about awareness and choice. If there is no awareness, there is no choice.
So just a very quick add-on. I didn't hear anybody mention shadow IT. I think this is one elephant in the room that no matter how effective your security controls are, if you don't have a good hold of your shadow IT, this is really a lurking danger, a ticking time bomb, because these things get lost and forgotten over time, and you just don't know what kind of risk you're dealing with there. But this is just the last thing I'm going to add. I think we we've exhausted this topic. You can find
Just one more
Marivell
thing.
off. Oh, no, come on. We have one more question from the audience waiting.
No, just real quick, because I think one thing we do have to recognize too that we don't talk about much is that IoT, OT, ICS, the sprawl of that in your environment, that also needs to be part of your inventory. I mean, these devices, sometimes they communicate in different protocols, yet they still have vulnerabilities that you need to be aware of, and there's third parties that are managing these things, and they've got to be part of your inventory.
That was a great call out. Yeah, really good one. All right, so I do have a question that is a little bit loaded. So get ready. Michael McKeel, who is participating online, thank you, Michael, for submitting a question. He's asking, including security in a project is hugely important. Why are cybersecurity professionals generally reluctant to embrace project managers in their teams? Why are cybersecurity professionals reluctant to accept project managers in their teams?
Actually, I think it's the other way around, right? Because and like you said, right, we all as individuals, we have the opportunity to make a difference. So it is my job to engage the project managers, to engage the engineers, to engage the leaders, right? And I put them all in the same room, and we're all going to resolve this. It's not going to get resolved the same day, but at least we're going to identify who those stakeholders are, and we're going to have these conversations, because if we don't have these conversations, there is nothing to solve. Just, put the mic down.
Okay, although this is a loaded question, I do have a take. I think that part of it is going back to what I was saying earlier, that well-rounded cybersecurity professionals need to be able to abstract to their area of expertise, which requires a lot of depth, and be able to understand kind of the whole ecosystem. And I think that a lot of times cybersecurity professionals are focused on a very, very niche domain, which is it's by design, but they lack understanding of the broader picture, which sometimes hinders them from understanding and realizing the value that a project manager could bring, right? In the instances where that is the case. We are not implying that that is always the case, but the question did ask, what is your perspective on why project managers are seen as not as valuable? So, being able to see the bigger picture would enable them to see that value.
Yeah, I'd like to add and build on that, because I agree wholeheartedly, first of all. But also, when you look at the best PMs that I worked on my teams or my project teams, they had the ability to say no to the client. And they would, based on it out of scope. And a lot of times I think security professionals may not understand. Yeah. So I think they didn't have the chance to understand what a PM does, or maybe a really good PM does, and the value that they bring to the table, how they can help reduce the risk of the project itself versus just the tracking of hours or whatever they're doing, and submitting status reports, that kind of thing. There's a lot more to it in project management than just what you look at it from a service level. So I agree, it's the value of a PM, having a good PM as part of the team, and bringing that value to make the efforts go smoother, as opposed to just taking notes and ticking marks kind of thing, right? So it's much more than that. I think that perspective could help security professionals see that value from a PM standpoint.
Anybody else? Putting you on a hot seat.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I don't see that problem in the organization that I work for, because we actually have project managers staffed as part of our security function, right? They're on the team. We're a huge organization. We're a national organization. We're like the second largest nonprofit healthcare organization in the country. There's 5 regions, but we deploy solutions nationally. You can't do that in such a large organization without project management. We're rolling out new technologies, new solutions, new capabilities all the time. So for us, project management is hugely important, and we have project managers that are dedicated to our team. Maybe I don't know what's driving the question, right? Maybe at this individual's organization, it's maybe a different scenario in terms of how the PMO operates, or if they even have a PMO. Maybe not everything necessarily rises to the level of a project, and maybe that's where some of the issue is finding that line. When do we need a project manager versus when can we just handle this on our own? But I know from our perspective, we would never get done the stuff that we do without our project managers for sure.
Well, that's why I said it's a little bit of a loaded question because it's very nuanced. But curious what Tim has to say.
Yeah, so I'm someone who is a former PMP, right? So for someone to say, hey, we're not going to have a project, especially for a critical effort, that's a ridiculous statement to me. And, throughout my programs, I've always had, dedicated security project managers. And even if I didn't, I would create them from the pool of PMs that we had in the company. And I always felt, my engineers, my BISOs, my, governance folks, they had more important jobs to focus on, right? And let the folks who are good at, sort of managing the umbrella of efforts do that. And we'll get things done much more efficiently and effectively. And if you need me to talk with your company, I'll gladly do that.
So also one more thing, this is just honestly a personal opinion, but I think that for a successful project or a program manager to effectively drive a cybersecurity program or a project, they also need to be a cybersecurity professional, at least to an extent, because you are the person that is bridging the gap between the various business stakeholders and the security team. So if you have no idea what the heck you're doing, of course you're not going to be valuable. So some of this perspective could be coming from, from just not having the right person to do the job. So yeah, any other questions? I think we can take one more and then we can just, enjoy. Have some drinks. Guess ready to party, I see. All right, well, I would love to help to just thank everybody, especially the panelists here who engaged in this conversation, shared so much insight and such diverse perspectives. Thanks to all of you for participating actively in the discussion, and looking forward to chatting with you just around. Thank you.